We begin the current Daf, the set the Shabbos Daf. Begin the top line of the Yomid, where our Gemara continues the theme of the previous Daf, where we open up the second paragraph, set the Shabbos Perek November B'Lik. Our shiur is co-sponsored by Kalzer and Yecheskel, Torah Anytime, and Daf L'Chaim. We thank everyone joining us on Zoom. Some ideas we're going to speak about in today's Daf is the kindling of the Shabbos lights with inferior wicks and oils, which was the theme of our Mishnah, and which will relate to the laws of Hanukkah lights regarding the wicks and the oils and some other halachas. The question is going to be regarding the inferior wicks and oils. This that you're not allowed to use them on Shabbos. What's going to be the halacha regarding Hanukkah? Additionally, we're going to have the halacha regarding rekindling the Hanukkah lamp, which is the famous concept known as kavs, the zakikla, if that's going to be obligated or not. Additionally, regarding benefiting from the light of the Hanukkah menorah is also the second variable that's going to be related if one could use these wicks and oils regarding the lights of the Hanukkah. Additionally, when the Hanukkah menorah should be lit and for how long. Additionally, the number of lamps for each night, which we know as the primary mitzvah, the Mahadran, and the Mahadran minimum, and where the menorah should be placed. And finally, we're going to discuss the actual Hanukkah story, what's known as my Hanukkah. So begin the current Daf Chaf Aleph. The Gemara brings turn about Linda Bryson. Regarding all these things we learned in the Mishnah, that aim at the Shabbos and all light with these wicks and these oils on Shabbos. But this is the halacha l'maisa. A person is allowed to make a large bonfire, which each twig is burning the other one. You're allowed to use these forbidden wicks to make a bonfire. Whether it's just you want to warm yourself up, a specific bonfire. Whether you want to use the light, let's say you're making some type of a fireplace and you're making it before Shabbos. Whether it's on the ground, whether it's on the stove. That is permitted to make from these forbidden wicks, which you're not allowed to light a candle for on Shabbos. Why? Because as the Bryce explains, Eliyasu didn't make it forbidden. The only thing they made these elements forbidden for is to make it as a wick for a lamp only. Because as the Gemara is going to continue to explain, these are things that they don't light well. And one might come to tilt the lamp, as we have the picture in the Talmudic times, this is the way their lamp was. And it's not going to really hold on to it so well, and you might come to tilt it, but by a fire that's not so relevant, and therefore it's permitted to go ahead and use these problematic wicks because you're not going to have the problem. Now, first the Gemara explains one of the other things we mentioned in the Mishnah regarding as forbidden oil. We said, another one of the oils that are not valid, as we'll explain the reasoning for all these items, is shemen kicks. It says the Gemara, my shemen kicks. The Gemara says three different interpretations, but what is the shemen kick? So Amar Shmuel says, He says, I asked all the seafarers, all those who travel by the sea, probably they said to me, there's one bird at the maritime cities, the cities by the sea, the kik shalai, and its name is kik. So the oil of this bird, they put into a lamp and they light it, that's forbidden, that's not a valid one. Or Yehuda says a second interpretation, it says mishcha de kozum, known as cotton seed oil. It's the oil that they make from the seeds of cotton. That is an oil, but again, it's not going to burn well, as we'll see in the Gemara, and therefore that's not valid. Rish Lakish says kikayin de yain. Says it's this plant of kikayin, which was similar to the one that yain, which we lay on after yain on Yom Kippurim. There's a plant after that the city was destroyed, and it was just sitting there after Nineveh, and it was this plant kikayin which grew and then was ruined. So that same plant, which Amar Rabbi Bachani says, he says, I saw a type of species of the same plant of the kikayin diyana, litzlei liva dami, similar to this litzlei liva, which it's a tree with large leaves and it has like this thick castor oil. It grows in large ponds of water. And by the opening of the stores, they hang it by the opening of the stores as shade and for a good smell. Where and from the seeds of the mishcha, they make oil. Again, this is what we're saying from this tree. They would make the oil, which would be from the seeds of it. And with the branches, they would lay down all the sick people, the marava of the west, right? So they would lay in the shade. We see how beneficial is this kikayin diyana. But one thing is that from the seeds they would make oil. That's a third interpretation of that is this shemen kik, which is forbidden to be used. Now the Gemara explains the general rule of the items which we said. We went through a whole list in the Mishnah, forbidden wicks and forbidden oils. Now the Gemara explains the reason for this. And Amar Rab, and this is the halacha l'maisa, it says, the wicks that the sage said, Shabbos, that you're not allowed to light on Shabbos, meaning to have it lit for Shabbos. you can't have it light. Even if Tracy discusses if you have one that's okay, what's with another one, but in general, you cannot have this candle lit on Shabbos. Why? They shiur because the flame is misachseches ben, which Rashi has two interpretations. What misachseches? Either like when you have a crooked knife, which is not when it's cutting the meat, it's not cutting it straight. So that's what misachseches bebasar means to say, as we find the terminology in the Gemara Chulin, which means to say that here also the light is not straight from the candle. It keeps on jumping from one place to another place. Or another terminology, misachseches means to say that it doesn't go into the wick. Rather, it just stays around the surface of the wick, like we find sichtach avonav, as the Gemara says in Baba Kama, which is that it scorches the stones, but it doesn't really go in, doesn't really burn stones. But the point is that the flame is flickering, it's not really going in. And that's the problem. If it's not going in, it might come to tilt it and violate the law of avar because it's not really staying into the wick. Therefore, that's the invalidations of the wicks. So to Shman, the oils that the sages said, you cannot light them, is because it's not, that oil is not drawn after the wick. It doesn't really get absorbed into the wick to burn. And therefore, again, you might come to tilt it to get the oil in. And again, that would be a havar, that would be forbidden. And therefore, one's not allowed to light such a lamp from before Shabbos. Now, the Gemara continues and says, says, okay, so these oils that we said in the Mishnah, that are not valid to light on Shabbos because we said it's not really going to get drawn into the wick. What's the halacha? Can you put into that oil, which is not a good oil, can you put in some good oil, which that would make that the oil would be drawn into the wick? And then miyad can then light. What's the question? Ultimately, now it is being drawn. But migas to do make exera dilma asila look to be a night, and you might come to do that halakha with only the forbidden oil, let's say shemen kik, and you're putting in some good shemen, let's say shemen zayis. Maybe we're not so concerned. No, ultimately now it's a good mixture, and therefore it'd be permitted. So Amalei, and this halakha says no imad liki, not let a light with, let's say, a poor inferior oil with a good oil that's mixed into it. Says the Gemara, what's the reason? Afisha imad liki, because when it's lit by itself, it doesn't light. So as Rashi explains, we'll make a gezerah ha atu ha. If we let you mix it with a little oil, let's say olive oil in it, you might do it without it, and then you're going to be lighting it with the inferior oil just by itself, which then on Shabbos is going to come to flicker, you might come to tilt it. Therefore, even with the mixture, one is not allowed to go ahead and do that. Now, Esvei, the Gemara, however, Abai asked on Rabbah from the following verse. It says, Karach davish madlikim boy. A person can wrap something that you could light with, meaning is a valid lighting tool, or gabi davish madlikim boy. That's something that you cannot light with. For example, all the invalid wicks of the Mishnah. So then says the Brisa, then actually the Brisa was being read. If someone was carved, if someone wrapped something that you could light on something that you cannot. So let's say one of the cases of the Mishnah was, let's say, cedar glass, which is not a valid wick. Let's say you wrap something that you could light with, which is something that's linen, and you wrap it on something that you cannot light with. So the Talmud Kama says, so you can't light with it. But on that, Rabbi Shloimy really says, "Shall base Abba from my father's household." They would wrap a wick on top of a nut, and then they would light. Which a nut is not something that you could light with, but they would wrap something that you could light on top of the nut, and they would light. So on that says Abai to Rabba, yes, one thing we see from Rabbi Shimon is the madlikin, that you could light. So even though the nut is not something that's fit to be a wick, but through the mixture of the good wick on top of the inferior, let's say the non-wick, that of the eggs, you see that's okay, and we don't make a gzeira. So that should be the same like the case we're discussing regarding the shemen. That although it's not good oil, but when you mix it with something that is good, you see that it should be valid. Why are you saying it's not valid? So Malay, so on that Rabbi said Tabayit, instead of asking me from Shimon Lil, say in the Tanakama, you could support me from the Tanakama. The Tanakama you're not allowed to. So that's exactly what I said regarding the oil. Now that's it, Abai. No, holy kasha, that's not a difficulty, what you're responding to me. Because what's known as Maisa Rav, what that means to say is Maisa, an actual story, is Rav is greater because since it's testifying that in practice in his father's household, that's what they did, that's most definitely what Allah would be. Because you could say your opinion, but in practice, what was actually done, that has a greater strength. So therefore, it says Abai to Rav, so it's difficult on you because my Allah like isn't the case. What they would do is they would wrap the good wick on top of the eggers so that it should burn together with the eggers. So you see that you're using a wick partially of bad and partially of good, and you see that it's valid. So therefore, that should be the same thing by the case of the oil. So that's his Rabbi Loy. No. they wouldn't wrap the wick on the nut to light the nut. Rather, it was lahakfis. It was to just have it supported, because as we have these, people have these types of wicks on Hanukkah time, which are these floating wicks. It's just to help it float, that it doesn't sink into the oil. That's what they had the nut for. And therefore, that's why it was going to be valid, because it was only one type of wick, the good wick. It wasn't mixed with something bad. The nut wasn't being used there in the context of lighting it, and therefore it was valid. Because yes, if it was mixed with something bad that was for the purpose of lighting, actually would be invalid, because then you might come to use it by itself, only the bad thing, which was like the case of the oil. That is Habayim, but Ila Hakras, if it's too much to help it float, it might tell it Tanakama. So that explains Rav Shimon Leo. But what's the Hakud Yansen Tanakama that says Asur? It says just Lahakris. So that says Rabbi no Kula Rav Shimon Leo. This Bryce is all just one opinion of Rav Shimon Leo. With Sur Mesfer, the word's missing, but this is how you're supposed to read the Bryce. If you wrap something that could be lit, something that cannot be lit, so then then you're right, you're not allowed with it, and that's exactly the way Rabbi said, because you might come to light it, let's say the nut by itself, which is obviously invalid. And that's where the Bryce comes to qualify in this halacha l'maisa. The medrum, when we say this, is lahak, only come to light. But if you're using something to help it float, then it's permitted. It's not considered as an invalid wick that's being used together with a valid wick. Because, not another opinion. Because the Shimon had said, Shabbos Abba by my father's household, they would wrap a wick on top of a nut, which you see this idea when there's lahak point, when it's just help it float, it is valid, and that's not the problem of mixing the good with the bad, which then we actually say, like Rabbi said, that it's actually not going to be valid, like he says by the case of the oil. But now the Gemara asks on this. Is that really so? The way Rabbi is saying that you're not allowed to mix the invalid oil with the good oil? But and this actually if someone has tchela, which is tallow, which is a certain type of fat of the animal, that's melted, or the fish in it that dissolve, although those are not valid oils, but a person could mix in some good oil and light. So you see explicitly, not like Rabbi. Rabbi said that when you have a not good oil and you're mixing a little good, it's not good because we might come to use it by itself. Here we see clearly from this teaching of Rabbi that it is good. So that's what the Gemara know. Hani mimshechi benayim. These cases that you just described from Rabbi, the chela b'hutach and the kirud dagim, they get drawn after the wick without a mixture of other oils, and they would be valid on their own. Whereas v'hani, the case of the Mishnah, lo mimshechi benayim, when they're by themselves, they don't get drawn after the wick. So therefore, we say you cannot light it with even something good, even when it's with something good, because you might do it by itself. But the cases that Rab just mentioned, the chela b'hutach and the kirud dagim, by themselves, they would get drawn after the wick. So why are you saying it's mixed with oil? Oh, it explains the Gemara. Because Rabban, the Rabbanan, although really you should be able to use chela b'hutach by itself, this is melted tallow. The reason why you cannot skip the Rabbanan made xera on the melted tallow, because you might come to use fats which are not melted, or about kirud dagim they made xera on the fish innards that were dissolved, because the intestines of the fish they were not dissolved, which those are not valid. Because of that, we said by itself you cannot use it. But since really it gets drawn after, when it's mixed with something else, you could go ahead and use it. That has to come out. Why? But you should make it zera even by the melted tallow, the kirud dagim and the dissolved fish innards. Even when you put in oil, because of the case of the melted fat and the fish innards that were dissolved, meaning you said that ultimately, okay, it was a xera, but you said you're not allowed to use them by themselves. So if you're not allowed to use them by themselves, then why do you let it with oil? It should be the same as all problematic oils. That you're not allowed to use it even when you mix it with something good. Why here is it different? That says Gemara, no. He goofum to use the chela b'hutach or the kirud dagim by themselves. That we don't let use it is a gezerah. It's a rabbinic decree because really they are good oils. They are drawn after the wick. A common rabbinic concept that what you think we're going to go now make a rabbinic decree because of a rabbinic decree, meaning you're going to tell me that you can't use it with a mixture because you might come to use it by itself. But even when you use it by itself, is itself a rabbinic decree. Therefore, that cannot be that we're making zero. But that's why Rav said that in those cases you could use with a little bit of oil because anybody's using it with a good mixture. And to say you cannot would be exactly that we don't do. But the case of our Mishnah, Rabbi still stands correct that you're not allowed to do it even with a good oil because if you used it by itself, it would be problematic. One would come to do avar. So therefore, we said even when it's with a good oil, one cannot light such a thing for Shabbos candles. Now, the Gemara continues and says, Tani Ram B'chama, based on the discussion we just had, this we had in the Mishnah, the wicks and the oils that the sages said you're not like for the Shabbos candles. And we explained why that is because it doesn't get drawn, and it just flickers, it's going to go out. One is not allowed to go ahead and use such a candle, such a lamp for the base of Mikdash for the night. Why? It says that the directive of the Kain was lahalas ner tamid it doesn't say lahadlik ner tamid, to light the candle continuously, which was every single night. It says to elevate the lamp of the base of Mikdash continuously. So where do you see from here that you cannot use these psolis or these psilis and shmanim? So that says the Gemara, who tamila, remember Bacham taught the Brisa, who amala. And he also came to explain what's the derivation of it. What do you see in this passage that you cannot use these psilos and shmanim? Because what's lahalas ner tamid is kadei shetei shalheves olam me'aleho. The kind when he lights it has to make that it's going to be elevated by itself. But not that it should be going up through something else, meaning it shouldn't need any fixing or adjustment or tilting once you light it. And that would exclude these types of wicks and oils. We said the reason why you're not allowed to use Shabbos is because on Shabbos you might come to tilt it because they don't get drawn after. That means to say the Kohen cannot use them when he's lighting the menorah, because if he would light with these things, he would have to adjust it and fix it because they don't hold on so well. Therefore, since it's the house there Talmud, we see that it's excluding these cases. Now, however, the Gemara asks Nan, but we learned in the Mishnah, Masechet Sukkah, that says, from the worn-out trousers, the pants of the Kahanim, and from their belts, they would tear, they would make the wicks for the Simchas Beis She'eva, which was the Ezes Nashim, they would take from the garments, which were worn out, and specifically by their belts were made of klein. Although generally it's forbidden the mixture of wool and linen, in the base of English they were permitted to do that. As the pasuk says explicitly, it says, and the avnit, the belt was sheish mazor, was linen, that was spun, and tchelis nargam. Now what was tchelis nargam? Although that's blue and purple, but we know that tchelis was made out of wool. And the problem is, we said regarding the laws of Shabbos, that we brought a brisa that says that not only the case of our Mishnah are invalid, but we also added the case of wool that's also invalid. Now, as Taisa points out, although the belt also had linen, which is valid, but since only a quarter of the belt was linen, because the other ones was the three different types, tchelis and argaman, and there was three different types of wool. So therefore, the linen was almost like bottle in the other ones. It was like as if it wasn't linen at all. So it was made out of wool, and still says the Mishnah Mehen Madlikin, and from the belts, the worn-out belts that were lying in the base of English. Didn't you tell me that the wicks that you use on Shabbos that cannot be used on Shabbos cannot be used in the base of English? And here we see by Simchas Beis She'eva that we're using the worn-out belts that was wool, and wool is one of the things that cannot be used because it doesn't burn well. You can't use it in Shabbos. How do you use in the base of English? Says the Gemara in the Simchas Beis She'eva Shabbos. The rejoicing of the drawing of the water, which was done by the Chalamoid of Sukkot, is different. There it doesn't say Lahalis Ba. It's not biblical. Only by the lighting of the night, which said Lahalis Ner Tamid, that required that you cannot use those wicks. But regarding Simchas Beis She'eva, did not have that limitation. They're able to use those wicks. So the Gemara says Tashma is trying to bring a different right. Because the Tani Rabbi Masna, he taught the brisa that says Big Kuruna Shabbat. The kind of garments that got worn out. So mafkinas, and they would tear apart those garments. And we make the wicks for the base of Mikdash, for the menorah. My lab, the kloyim, isn't it talking about even, let's say, from the belts, which was a mixture of wool and linen. You see that we're using wool, and you said, I'll use the wicks that cannot be used in Shabbos, which is wool, and you cannot use in the base of Mikdash. So, no, it's not difficult. We're talking about the devuts. We're talking about which worn-out garments that they used to make the wicks for the menorah. That was, let's say, of the kasainis, the tunic, which was made out of linen, and therefore, yes, that is a valid wick. Even on Shabbos, that's what they used in the base of Mikdash. Now we continue, where the next three dafim are the halachas of Chanukah, which the reason why we introduced it over here, because it continues primarily first on the theme of the psilas and shmanim, the wicks and the oils that are invalid to be used for Shabbos, which we said are invalid to use in the base of Mikdash. That becomes the discussion, may they be used for Chanukah, which the discussion is dependent primarily on two different points. One, what's called, do we hold kafsa zakiklo or kafsa ein zakiklo, which basically means to say when it gets extinguished, do we have to tend to it? In other words, does it actually have to burn for a half hour? So if it goes out, you got to relight it. Or is it kafsa ein zakiklo? No, Can it burn? Is it just that it can burn a half hour? It doesn't have to actually burn. It has to be that it would be able to. But if it goes up, you don't have to tend to it. Now, that ramification is going to be, if you hold that it comes to zakuk, it has to actually burn, so then you cannot use the inferior oils of wicks, because what's going to happen is it might go out because they don't really hold so well. And you might be negligent, you might not relight it, and you didn't fulfill the mitzvah because it didn't actually burn a half hour. But if your comes to ain't zakuk, so then you can use inferior oils of wicks, because as long as it lit, you fulfilled your mitzvah, and it doesn't make a difference. Another element that's going to be relative is regarding the halacha to light it for the Shabbos, for the Chanukah menorahs before Shabbos, is as it mutter l'shtamish l'oira. You're allowed to go ahead and utilize the illumination of the Chanukah menorahs. That can be related to Shabbos, because if you could use it and it doesn't light so well, so then Shabbos you might come to tilted because it's not lighting so well. But if you can't use it anyway, you're not going to come to tilted. That's going to be the discussion, these two elements regarding the halacha of the Ner Chanukah. So now we begin. It says, the wicks and the oils that the sages said. You cannot light for them on Shabbos. You cannot use that not to light for the Ner Shabbos. You can't light even for the Ner Chanukah. Whether if it's you're coming to light right before Shabbos, that it should be the Ner Chanukah the Friday night, or whether you're doing it on a regular weekday on the Wednesday night, you cannot use these wicks and these oils. Why? So Amar says, my time Rav, what's the reason Rav? Ksavir, because he holds kavsa. If the Ner Chanukah are extinguished, zakukla, you have to tend to it to fix it, to light it back up. Oh, so that's why initially you do have to make sure it's going to be good wicks and oils, because if it's not, it might go out, and you might be negligent, and you're not going to fix it. And turns out you didn't fulfill your mitzvah Ner Chanukah, because it has to actually burn, as we'll see in the base, what's the shiur, for that amount of time that it has to burn. So therefore you have to use good wicks, not the inferior ones. And so too, he holds a mutter l'shtam sh'la'ira. You're allowed to utilize the illumination of the Ner Chanukah. You could go ahead and benefit from it. So therefore, on Shabbos, you're not allowed to use the Ner Chanukah because you might come to tilt it for your utility to go ahead and use it, because you're allowed to have the illumination. And the problem is it's not lighting well, and then you might come to tilt it to get a benefit. Therefore, you cannot light it for the Ner Chanukah, not for a weekday, not for Shabbos. Now, please ask an obvious question. Where does Rav another who holds that you're allowed to use the illumination? Maybe this said you cannot light for Shabbos because he holds, like he holds in the weekday, of kavs and zakugla. If it gets extinguished, you're going to have to tend to it, and you cannot relight on Shabbos. During the weekday, you might be negligent. Shabbos, you cannot relight it because it's Shabbos. So how do you know that mutla Shabbos later? So that he says, because if that would be the case, Rav Huna should have said, he should not have said, when he says that you cannot use the psilas or shmon of Shabbos for Chanukah, he should not have said bein b'chol bein Shabbos, because if it's the same reasoning, he should have just said you cannot light with those wicks and those oils. And the fact that he says bein b'chol bein Shabbos is obviously he's coming to say that there's another reasoning on Shabbos why not to light it besides the weekday purposes, because that's shemayati, you might come to tilted, and therefore obviously he's concerned with that you might come to tilted, but obviously because you're able to use illumination, and then you might come to tilted. That's how Rabbi knew that Rav Huna holds that kavs and zakugla and mutla shtam shleir. That's one opinion. Continues the Gemara. Rav Chizam, a second opinion. He says, no, madlikin ben b'chol. You could use these wicks and oils that you cannot use in Shabbos. You could use it for a weekday of Chanukah. Abaloi b'Shabbos, but not on Shabbos. What's the reasoning? So says the Gemara. Kstabri, he holds kavs if it gets extinguished as you continue to come in days. Ain't zakugla. You don't have to tend to it. Oh, okay. So therefore, during the weekday, you're allowed to use these types of wicks because we don't care if it goes out. So therefore, because it doesn't have to light in actuality, it's just that it can. It can. So therefore, it's okay. Oh, but he holds a mutal shtam shloim and says you're allowed to use the illumination of the Ner Chanukah. Oh, that's like Rav Huna. That's a problem because that's what's also on Shabbos. Because on Shabbos you might come to you reading something and the light doesn't hold well, and you're going to come to tilted without realizing violating the malacha deraisa mavara. So therefore, for Shabbos you cannot use that in Ner Chanukah. Now, Amr B'Zeira, Amr Masna. Some say Amr B'Zeira, Amr Rav. A third opinion. This is the halacha l'maisa. The wigs and the oils that the sages said you're not allowed to light for Shabbos. You could use it on Chanukah, whether on the weekday or even on Shabbos. So Rabbi Yomi says, my time to Rav, because he holds, and this is how we rule, kavs that it gets extinguished, ain't zakugla, you don't have to tend to it, you don't have to fix it, and therefore you're allowed to light it on the weekday, because we're not concerned that you're going to go ahead and be negligent and not relight it, because you don't have to relight it, you fulfill the mitzvah. Additionally, there's also how we rule, but also l'shtamish la'ira, and you're not allowed to go ahead and utilize the light. And we say this in the Haneris Halalu. We're not allowed to use the illumination. And the reason why is because it has to be recognizable that this is the ner of the mitzvah, that we're not just having some light in the house. We want people to recognize that it's being lit for the purposes, and therefore we're not allowed to utilize it. oh, so therefore we're not concerned that on Shabbos you might come to tilted because you can't utilize it anyway. So therefore, you let it light on the weekday because Kav saying Zakal, you let it use it on Shabbos because us l'shtam shleir. The Gemara says that Amru Rabboni Kamed Abaya B'Shmei Rabbi Yirmiyah. The rabbi said this teaching over in front of Abaya in the name of Rabbi Yirmiyah, who he just gave this explanation of this teaching of Rab, that why is it permitted on the weekday and Shabbos because us l'shtam shleir and Kav saying Zakal. But he didn't accept it, meaning he didn't consider it significant that he should rely on his opinion that this is the halachic ruling. But when Rabban came, then the rabbi said in front of Abaya and the Shmid and then the Kibbutz accepted. He said, Izakai, he says, had I been meritorious, meaning if I would be merited to learn this halacha, he says that it says I would have learned this teaching originally when I heard it the first time when it was named of Rab. It says the Gemara, okay, but why is he so bothered? But he learned it right now. Okay, he didn't learn it then when he heard the name of Rab. He learned it now when he heard the name of Nechna. So the Gemara, not mean the halachic relevancy is, but it's a well-known phrase, what's called the Girsa de Yankasa. For the studies that he learned when he was younger, which they stay longer, they stay better by a person than what he learned in his older age, and that's like already hardwired into his neurology and neurobiology, and therefore he would have known it better. Therefore, he was a little bit upset that he only merited now to learn it and that he didn't accept it previously, because when you learn when you're younger, you remember that better. But now the Gemara continues the discussion. It says, is that really so that what we just said from the last two opinions, which actually we said is the halacha, that because it ain't zakul, if it gets extinguished, you don't have to go back and tend to it? But ask the Gemara, but there seems to be contradicted from the following brisa, which is a halacha l'maisa. Mitzvah, so the mitzvah, the ner Chanukah is mishatishka chama, for when the sun sets. So it starts when the sun sets, in this whole discussion in Pesachim, as in many years halacha, when we say shkia, the beginning of shkia, the end of shkia, but when the sun sets, until there's no more people walking in the marketplace. Now, one thing is, says the Gemara, my love isn't the brisa telling us the ikavsa mean to say that if it gets extinguished, then you have to relight it because the ner Chanukah have to be lit from shkia until the tifrek nashuk. If you light up a shkia and it goes out 5 minutes later, you didn't fulfill the mitzvah of until when the people stop walking the marketplace. So you want to know, and this is actually the halacha l'maisa. The ilay adlik, the halacha is that if you didn't light yet by the starting time of shkia sachama, then you can still go ahead and light up until tifrek nashuk, because that the inference is, as Taisa says, is but from that point on, you already missed the time. You can't light the ner Chanukah anymore. But Taisa thinks from the reply is that, yeah, although one should be careful to light initially in the beginning of the night, in the time when it starts, and not delay, but if one did delay, then one could still light out of doubt, because as we said, there are other answers the Gemara is giving, that not only that that's the time of the lighting, that this shiur, is talking about something else, and therefore could be you could still light later. And actually it takes me to the read that actually today's times we don't have to be concerned when you light, because we don't use it as a sign for the people out into the street, which that would be the understanding. If no one's in the street, it's not going to be presuming Nisa. By us, we light anyways in the house, and the whole presuming Nisa is of the household members, and therefore you can light even later. That's what the place can see. You can call them later at night. You can wake up a family member and light, and then you can be Makai in the midst of presuming Nisa, because it's not for the people outside anymore. It's primarily for those on the inside, as we'll see later on the Gemara. So that's one approach the Gemara says. No, it doesn't even have to light that whole time. No, it comes to really ain't zakuk law. It doesn't have to light. What's it saying from Shkia Sakama until Tel Mashuk? Is that if you don't light, you could still light up until that time. Or Vinami, another approach, which also it means the shiur. It means the amount of oil that you have to have has to have the amount that it could light from Shkia up until Tifrek Mashuk. But in actuality, if it goes out, you don't have to tend to it. You just have to have that amount of oil that can burn that half hour, that amount of time. Now the Gemara just qualifies what's when it says up until there's no what literally means say legs from the marketplace until that has already gone away. Says and how long is that? So Rabbi says it means until the feet of the Tamadoi are no more there in the marketplace, which that was the name of a certain nation that they would gather these small twigs and they would stay late in the marketplace until the people in the marketplace already went home when it was already dark. And then they were making fire in their house for warmth or for supper. When they needed wood, they would go out quickly last second, get from the Tamadoi in the marketplace, which the place can explain is around a half hour after Tzeitzek Chavim. That's either, again, how much oil has to burn or how until when you can light. And therefore, that's the measurement of Achatech regular shuk. It means from these Talmudaim. That's the shiur. But again, it's not necessarily mean to say that it has to actually light that long, because we actually rule kapsa in zakuma. Now we continue with the Gemara, time about Lina Brisa, which now we talk about the well-known halacha of certain levels of fulfillment of the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah. So, and this is the halacha l'maisa. Time about Lina Brisa. Mitzvah Chanukah, the mitzvah of the Ner Chanukah is Ner, is a candle. Ish ubeisai, a man and his household, meaning there's one candle for every single night. For the man and his whole family is enough with one Ner. Now, on the Hadron, which some translate it as from the word of the Hidur mitzvah, Rashi actually translates it as they pursue after mitzvahs. They go ahead and they make a Ner, one candle every single night, l'chol echad ve'echad, for every single member of the family. So if there's 10 people in the house, they're not lighting just one candle every night, they're lighting 10 every single night, one for each family member. Then this is by Mahadrim and Mahadrim, those who really pursue the mitzvah Ner Chanukah, which is, B'Shamrim, they say, Yemishan Madlik Shmayim. The first day you light 8 candles. Then every day after that is when you go ahead and you diminish from 8, you go down to 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, going through all the 8 days of Chanukah. They say the opposite way. Yemishan Madlik Achas, which we rule like this. So the first night you light 1. Then from there on, you continue lighting and you light 1, and then the second night 2, and 3, and 4, all the way through the 8 night. Now, regarding this machlekes b'sham esil, this machlekes amiram to understand the principle that they disagree about. Amar Uli says, there's machlekes of two Amaram in the west, in Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Yisrael and Rabbi Yisrael Zvi. Now, Chadam, one of them says, the time of Bisham, what's the reason Bishamai is connected Yom HaNechnasim, because it correlates to the incoming days that are coming to come. So therefore, that's why you start off with 8, say, because there's 8 more nights coming. Then there's 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Correlated to the amount that are still going to be, that's how many you light. The reason this is connected Yom HaYotzeh correlates to the days that have already passed, which the day that you buy is from the days that have passed. You start with 1 day has already passed. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, going all the way to 8. That's how many days have already passed. So it's either the days that are coming, that's Beisham, or the days that have passed, that's Beisel. Which actually, the Taisa brings from the Reed that this is a proof that Beisham Beisil, which is a discussion in a very practical halacha, when they say the Mahadrim that you like for every single family member every single night, is that going back on the Mahadrim, which actually is the practice of the Bnei Ashkenaz, that you light, everyone lights the first night 1, everyone lights the second night 2, and so on and so forth. But the Reed brings from this concept that actually, no, they're going only on Nerish Beisai, that when you're lighting 1 for the family, then you light 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because that would be a greater hitter, because then there's a recognition that when you're adding or diminishing, you could tell how many days are coming in or how many days have passed. But if every single person is lighting 1 candle, so even if you're going to add, then everyone's going to light 2 the next night, everyone's going to light 3 the next night. So there's no recognition because people are going to think, let's say there's 5 members of the family. So the first night they lit 5, second night they're lighting 10. So it just looks like that's how many family members. You cannot tell that by the second night. Therefore, actually, the Reed says that, as the Shulchan Aruch rules, that actually is the halacha that the Mahadrim and the Mahadrim is not that everyone, the Mahadrim is everyone lights a candle, but 1 candle every single night. Mahadrim and Mahadrim, so is that they light 1 menorah, but then adding on or diminishing, if you go like B'Shem Yisrael, every single night, but not that every single one in the family should have a candle lit for them. But the Bnei Ashkenaz practice is that actually Mahadrim is actually going back on Mahadrim. But that was one interpretation of the Machlekes. The Chaim, the other one says, the time of the reason B'Shem is connected Parei HaChag, correlates to the bulls that are born on the Yom Tov of Sukkot, which, as we find by the Kabbalah and Parashat Pinchas, that they start off with a larger quantity and actually keep on decreasing as the days of Sukkot go along. That's how we do by the Ner Chanukah. We find such a precedent that also we start with 8, we go down 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But the time of Basil, as we rule, which is a concept we find many times, what's called the Mailam HaKodesh. In the laws of sanctity, we elevate, and we say as Ner Salol HaKodeshim. So we elevate the Emer Reading, we don't diminish, and therefore we're going to keep on going up and not going down. Therefore, the Basil say that we're going to go from 1 and go all the way up, which is as Allah is. This is there is these 2 elders in this place called Tzidon. One did like Basham, we started with 8 and went down. One did like Basil, we started by 1 and he went up to 8. Now, this one gave the reasoning for his opinion, connected Parachak, which he did like Bisham, and he says, yes, I start by 8 and go down because he's getting like that interpretation of the Bayram, which is like we find with the bulls of Sukkot, which you start with a greater number and you go down. Different did it with the Necham. Okay? The Zen lesson comes about the one that did like Basil, he gave the reasoning for his opinion is because the Ma'am of Kodesh and read because we elevate in the laws of sanctity and we don't go down, therefore we start with 1 and we go up instead of starting with 8 and going down. Now we continue with where to place the Chanukah menorah. Turn to learn the Bryce, and this is the halacha l'maisa. Ner Chanukah, the candles of Chanukah, mitzvah lahanicha al Pesach beisa mibachutz. The mitzvah is to put it by the opening of one's house on the outside, because that will fulfill the publication, the publicization of the miracle, which is called Pesumini. So now Rashi holds you don't put it in the public domain, rather you put it in the courtyard. Where their house is open up into the courtyard, you do it by the opening of the house in the courtyard. Tesis explicitly disagrees. Tesis says actually this that we're saying that mitzvah nicha pesach beisai by his house on the outside is only talking about when there's no courtyard because his house is open to the Rosh Hashanah. But he says if there is a courtyard in front of the house, the mitzvah is to put it by the pesach of the chatzah. And Tesis brings proofs for his opinion. Actually, some interesting halachas as we'll see regarding the Nersha Shtei. He proves that if it's people from 2 different houses and they could use one candle, obviously then it would be on the left side of one's house and right on the other one, then we'll see that it has to be a certain place. He says obviously then it was by the Pesach and the Chatzah, where by both of them would be in the right place. So Tais disagrees and he holds actually it should be lit and even down to the contemporary place. And there's a debate regarding it should be the Pesach Bayis or the Pesach of the Chatzah. That's the primary halacha. Now, however, says the Braisim, Hoyed Dar Ba'aliyah, but if he was living in the upper story, where he has no place in the courtyard to put it, because he lives on the upper story. So then manicha, then he places it inside his house, but opposite bechalon, this the halacha, by the window, hasmuch Rosh Hashanah, which is adjacent to the Rosh Hashanah. So that passerbys, a place can be told about even, let's say, above, saying that that's not valid, but what's with other apartment buildings that could see it, that's the halacha, and that's the common practice, people light it by the window. Now, the Shas is however, at the time of danger, where the Persians, which as Tosfos explains, there was these Chavari who, when they came to Babel, they came and they influenced the Persians. There was a certain decree on their holiday that no candles should be burnt, only in their house of idolatry. The Gemara says Daf Yomi. And therefore, it was dangerous to light a candle. Then the halach is manicha al shulchan b'dayim, and you can just light on the table. That's sufficient. And like we said, the Parfumi Nisa is really for the household members, and it's okay. You don't have to light it even by the window. Now, however, Amar Rabbi makes an important stipulation for this if you're lighting it inside the house on the table. And this halacha l'maisa says, Sarach ner acheres, then you need to have another candle as a recognition, lehishtamesh la'or, to utilize that light, and that to show that, so then why lighting this other light? The other light is for the ner Chanukah. Because if not, then you don't see explicitly that this is being lit as a Parfumi Nisa, because this might just be lit because you're having illumination in the house. But if you have another candle, and why lighting this one? Oh, that's showing that it's special for the purposes of the Ner Chanukah. And this extra candle is what we know, and we use the terminology, it's called the Shamash. We light it so that we know that that's what it's for. And then the other one, why you're lighting it, must be for the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah. But says Rabbi, the Ikim Nadur, but if anybody's in the house, there's a bonfire, then loitzarach, then you don't need to go ahead and make another candle because you're anyways using the light of the Madura. And then there's a recognition why you're lighting this candle must be for the Ner of the mitzvah of Chanukah. But if he's a distinguished personage, so then he doesn't commonly use the light of a bonfire. He's more refined and uses a candle. So then even if there's a bonfire, you need to have another candle, because if not, it wouldn't be recognition for him, because it looks like that this candle was lit just for the illumination purposes. And if you have another candle, which we call the shamish, to show that these are specifically the mitzvah of Ner. Now the Gemara discusses what's known, the well-known brisa, my Chanukah. What is the source of the Yom Tov of Chanukah? Meaning, for what miracle was it that happened that they went and they established this Yom Tov of Chanukah? Says Gemara Temple like we learned in the brisa, and this is the halacha l'maisa, which in this story has the halacha of the laws of Chanukah. So the Chafei Kislev, on the 25th of Kislev, Yom of Chanukah, the days of Chanukah, Tamanya Inyan, their 8 days, the Loila Misper behind this halacha, you're not allowed to eulogize them if someone passes away. You're not supposed to fast in them. Because what happened? When the Greeks went into the sanctuary, they defiled all the oil in the sanctuary. But when the kingdom of the Chashmonah, the kings who, Matisyahu, the Maccabees, they conquered the Greeks. So, but could they check? But they only found one flask of oil, which they wanted to light with tar oil, which was placed there with the seal of the Kohen Gadol in a hidden place. It was sealed with his signet, and they recognized that they placing points that it has to be not only that they didn't open and touch it, but if let's say there was the gzeira that we make on non-Jews that have halacha like kazav, then it would be problematic even if they moved it. You have to say that it was not only sealed with the Kohen Gadol, it was deep in the ground that it wasn't even moved, so it didn't have any tumah at all. So they were able to light in the area of the menorah with this one flask. But the problem was it was only enough to light in one day. But a miracle happened with it. They lived with it 8 days until they were able to go ahead and get new oil. So the following year, they established the Asum Yom Tov and Bahal V'Dah. They made this Yom Tov of Chanukah a Yom Tov for praise and for thanksgiving, which, as Rashi explained, specifically is for that purpose of Halal and Aidah, but not to go ahead and say that it's forbidden to do Malacha, because it was only established to recite Halal and to say Al Hanisim B'Haidah in the Thanksgiving. So that's the Halal that we say, and the Al Hanisim that we make in the Haidah in the Magid. Now, a related discussion, the Gemara brings that's not. We learned, Tanan knows a little bit in Mishnah Sections Baba Kama. It's going to relate back to these halachas on their Chanukah, where exactly you're supposed to put them in there. The Mishnah says like this: Gets hayotzim etachas apatash. A spark that comes out from beneath this large hammer of the blacksmith. So he bangs and these sparks come out. If if it goes out these sparks and it damages, it's a chayav. So the blacksmith is liable. It's his liability. Now let's say gamal shaton pishna. Let's say you have a camel that was laden with flax, and the camel is walking through the public domain. The necklace of pishtan, and then what happens is there's so much flax in it that as he's moving by stores, the flax is entering into the store. And then it gets lit up, it gets kindled from the candle of the store owner who has his candle in the store. The hidlik is a beer, and it burns up the whole apartment building. So Baal Gamal Chayev. So the owner of the camel, he's liable because he should not have made such a large bundle that's going to be going into stores. That's his liability. Now, let's say let's say the candle was not inside the store. Let's say he put his candle outside the store. Then the store owner is liable, and that's actually the halacha, because why do you have your candle on the outside? Now, he says, actually we don't rule like this. He said, B'ner Chanukah, but by the Ner Chanukah, then Patra, then you're going to be, the store owner is going to be exempt. Why? Because he actually had permission to put his candle on the outside, because the mitzvah allowed him. Because the mitzvah is presuming this is the public, the miracle that you're supposed to put it by the pesach base. So this thing he put it outside his store. And now that a camel came by and got lit, no, it's the camel's fault. It's not his fault. He was allowed to put his candle on the outside. Also, on that, Ravina, the Rabbi says, is this that you're telling me that if he lit the Ner Chanukah, he's going to be patur merit? That tells us the following halacha, which the halacha l'maisa. Ner Chanukah, that must say that the Ner Chanukah is the mitzvah l'anicha b'techasad. The mitzvah, which the person explained, it should be higher than 3 tefachim from the ground, because else they can sit on the ground itself. And we want to show that it's putting it specifically the mitzvah Ner Chanukah, not just on the ground, is to put it within 10 tefachim from the ground. And I can prove this from this halacha. Why? Because the Islam did that. If you would think that you could even put it above 10 tefachim from the ground, so then why you tell me you're patur? Because you're allowed to put it outside over here, because the mitzvah Ner Chanukah. But let the damaged party tell to the store owner, but you should have put it higher than a camel and its rider, because you don't have to. So then who gives you the permissibility? So therefore, obviously, the mitzvah is to put it over there, and he had to because that's the mitzvah, and that's why he's going to be exempt. So the Gemara says, no, it's not a riot, because the Dhamma maybe if you're going to make him go through the effort of putting it higher and get up on the ladder, and that it's not in the way of a camel and the rider, I'll see him doing the mitzvah. He's just going to stop from doing the mitzvahs because too much of a tircha. So maybe you don't have to put it within 10 tefachim. Maybe you could put it higher, but still he's exempt when he puts it within 10 tefachim, because that's when I can make the person go through the effort, and because of that rishus of the mitzvah is able to, and therefore he's exempt. But not that you have to. Maybe you could still put it above 10 tefachim from the ground. Now, one last halacha regarding the placing of the menorah. Amar Rav Kahana says, Darish Rav Nasan B'Menyum Mishmidra B'Tachim says, Ner Shel Chanukah to B'Tim B'Chol Beis Manel, the candle of the Chanukah menorah Shenichel L'Mal Nochav Amin, that was placed above 20 amas from the ground. Sula, that's invalid. The reason that is because the person's eye cannot see above 20 amas, and therefore it's not fulfilling the idea which is you want the people in the street to see, because of Pesumei Nisa, as the Gemara says, Kisuka Ukamov. Just so we learned explicitly in the Mishnah, in the Mesechtes Eruvin and Mesechtes Sukkah, that the Eruv of the Kaira or the Schach of the Sukkah is invalid if it's above 20 amas, because you can't see that high. That's going to be the same thing that applies for the mitzvah of the Ner Chanukah. Just wanted to mention I was just thinking that that we're living in unprecedented times, and people are fearful. People are in a state of panic. People are scared. People are scared of death, and these are the scariest moments in people's lives when they contemplate the day of death. And actually, in the words of our sages, that inspires a person to repent. As the Gemara says in Brachas, if all other things fail to make a person repent, so we remind them of the day of death. Now, what is the day of death like? So they asked the Kotzker Rebbe, what is the day of death like? They asked him, if this were your last day on life, on this planet, what would you do? And his answer shocked them. He didn't say things that he would have thought, if you have one more day, what you're going to do. He's going to do things that he never ever does, and he's going to do it all day. He says, I would do what I do every single day. There's something that I noted with this epidemic, is that people are overwhelmed in general, but even more with the messages out there, the negative and even the positive messages is just overwhelming. People don't really know what to do, and they're just overwhelmed. However, I observed one thing that I keep on getting comments, that those who learn the Daf Yomi, it gives them a sense of value, a purpose, of meaning. It's just concretizing for them in their life. Now is the ideal time for those who are not yet part of the Daf Yomi to be a regular of the Daf Yomi, or if you're already part of it, to strengthen your daily commitments with the Daf Yomi, because you want to be able to live every day like it's your last, or like the Kotzker Rebbe did, to live your last day as you do every single day, and that's learning that day's Daf. And that merit made Mashiach come, who he said he's going to come Hayoy, today, which is every day, is a day spent learning and connecting with the study of Torah. Some of these we spoke about in today's Daf, in the Sefta Shabbos Daf Chaf Aleph. We said that all the things we said in the Mishnah, that Eimad Liken Behen B'Shabbos, so that's specifically for a candle, but not for a Madura. Madura, we don't have the concern, because even though it doesn't hold on so well, that's only when you're trying to use it for illumination purposes of reading or whatever, then you might come to tilt it, but by bonfire, it's going to go ahead and burn up as a conflagration. They were not concerned. Additionally, one of the items we mentioned of the Psuli Shemen that our Gemara was qualifying from the previous stuff was Shemen Keh. We said that it's not a valid oil. Either one of three interpretations, either it's the oil of a certain bird, in the Krach HaHayam, or it's cottonseed oil, which is not valid, or it's from the Kikoin V'Yona, the seeds, which they would make oil out of it. That is an invalid oil to be used as the shemen for the Ner Shabbos. So then the Gemara explained, what is the understanding, the principle of the halacha of our Mishnah regarding the invalid wicks, is because it like flickers, and therefore you might come to tilt it. Or the same thing is the psuli shemen, is because the oil does not get drawn after the wick. And the same thing over here is the concern of shemayate, you might come to tilt it, and therefore you cannot use these for candles on Shabbos. Then the Gemara said, even if you put in some good oil is not valid, because gazrin ha atuha, that you might come to use it be'inayu, by itself, and that's not valid because you might come to tilt it, and therefore you cannot even use it, even you mix it with something else. Now, although we brought the Shmuel says permitted to wrap a good wick on top of a nut, which is not a good wick, that's because using the ego is just as lahakris. With it, then you're right, that would be, we said you're allowed to light good oil, but chel mahutav is not valid. How can you use it? But no, that's not true, because we after the wick, even without oil. It's only because it's a gezerah, because you might use the chiluk, which is not mahutav. Therefore, we say even when it is mahutav, you can't. But we're not going to say that you can't light the chiluk mahutav with something else that is good, because that would be a gezerah, which we don't do, because as it is, the chiluk mahutav is good. It's just because you're not using, because they ain't mahutav, so we're not going to say you cannot use the chiluk mahutav with some good oil. Then we said, so these wicks and these oils that we said that you cannot use on Shabbos, that we said that you can't use them on Shabbos. So then we said that these oils in the wicks you can't use in Shabbos. So there's two different areas that we said that it would be problematic. You can't use it in the Beis Hamikdash either. The reason for that is because the pasuk says that it's lahalos ner tamid. Lahalos means that it has to be oil me'aleha. So which means to say that you don't have to fix it. And those types of wicks and oils you have to fix. And we find by some Rabbi Shloimy that you use it even from wool. So some Rabbi Shloimy is different because that's not the eraser. And therefore, that's going to be permitted to use out of wool. But by the narrows of the menorah, they couldn't use those types of things. It has to be oil me'aleha. Now, what's with Chanukah? Could you use the wicks or not? So there was three different opinions. First opinion says you're not allowed to use it, not on Shabbos, because that opinion holds you're allowed to use the oira, and you might come to tilted. And you can't use it even on the weekday, because Kav says Zakakla, it has to actually burn for the half hour, and it might go out, and you might be negligent and not relight it, and you're not fulfilling your mitzvah. Second opinion says, no, you're allowed to light it during the weekday, as we will, because even if it goes out, ain't Zakakla, so it's okay if it burns out. But not on Shabbos, because he holds Mutzah Shabbos Leira, and you're going to use the illumination, you might come to tilted. The third opinion, which is how we rule, is you're allowed to light it actually both on the weekday and on Shabbos because kafsa ain't zakakla, and on Shabbos because asla shabbos shlar ain't lo rishus l'shabbos b'am ela l'reisim. But you're not going to go ahead and use it for illumination purposes when it says l'reisim. You're told to see it, not to use it to see. Now the problem is with the opinion that as we rule as kafsa ain't zakakla, it seems difficult because we have a rice that says the nitzah of ne'chanik is from shkis achama until it's techareg mashog. You see, it has to burn that long. You see, kafsa zakakla. So the Gemara have two approaches. No, it just means that if you didn't light, you could light up until that time, but not that it actually has to burn. Or it means the amount of oil that you put in, that shiur has to have that shiur of a half hour of oil, and that's what it means. It doesn't have to actually burn. If it goes out, it goes out. Then we said the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah is primarily Ner Ishe Beisai, one candle per night. Then we said, but the Mahadran, they do one candle for each family member each night. Mahadran min Mahadran is a machlekes b'sham b'sil. Either you're adding or you're decreasing as the days are going on. So you do 1, 2, 3, 4, and again we mentioned the machlekes apaiskim. Do you do each family member, which is our custom, the Bnei Ashkenaz, or do you do only the father household? He does one each night, going up 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6. Now, what's the reasoning of the machlekes b'sham b'sil? So b'sham holds either one interpretation is the days that are still coming, so there's 8 days coming, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and he still says the days have already passed. Or Bishama goes with the Pari HaChag, which is a sukkos of how many bulls they would keep on diminishing and decreasing, and therefore that's how you do it here in the order of Chanukah. Bishama says no, Mailam B'Kodesh, and therefore we go up, we increase, we start 1, going up 2, 3, and so on and so forth. Then the mitzvah of Chanukah, where do you actually put it? What's the location? So the ikar halacha is you put out Pesach base mebuchutz. You put it out in the opening of the house on the outside that people could see it. But if let's say you live in the upper story, so then you put it by the window for the people that should surround to at least get parsumi listed that way. Times of danger, which is in our time, then the custom is to put on the table in the house and it's for the people inside. But still the custom is to put it by the window to still get that parsumi listed. But we said if you're doing it inside the house on the table, then you need to have a shamish or at least a madura to show that it's a recognition that the other candles are for Pesumei Nizik. Because what do you have before? You already have illumination. That's what we know in halacha as the shamish. Then we have the brace of my Chanukah. What is Chanukah? So that's the miracle of the Netzachim and of the Pach Shemen, which was that it lit for 8 days, and therefore they made a Yom Tov of the 8 days of saying Hal and Haida, which is in Maidim, we say Al Hanisa. Then we ended off by saying that there's an exemption of the Ner Chanukah of the storekeeper when he has it on the outside, although generally he would be liable. So that's not a proof we said that, must be that you have to have with intent tefachim, because if you didn't have to, then he should put a higher than the camel on the rider. Why is he exempt? He's making it's his negligence. No, because if we would be matriach him too much, he might come to stop from doing the mitzvah, and therefore maybe you don't have to do with intent tefachim. Maybe it could be higher, but still we allow you to do that because else you're not going to go ahead and do the mitzvah in the appropriate. And then additionally, we said regarding height, we said, however, above 20 amas, that's going to be invalid, like Sukkah and Erevim, where you can't see it, and therefore that's not going to be a fulfillment of Pesumei Nisa. Thank you to anytime for hosting us.